What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I'm going to dive into the New York Giants 2021 schedule. And I'm going to give my way too early predictions for the 2021 season. I'll probably have another one of these up maybe a week or two before the year starts, after training camp, after we receive news about injuries around the league, not just with the New York Giants specifically, but these are my way too early predictions. Last year for the New York Giants, I predicted before the year started that the Giants would go 6-10. That's ultimately what they ended up doing. This year, I have a much more optimistic view with this football team for the simple reason, well, we're more grown up. We now have more familiarity on both sides of the football, both offense and defense. We were very active in free agency, and I thought we had a strong draft in which we brought in two players that should make an immediate impact for this New York Giants football team. Now, the one thing that you have to factor in, a lot of teams around the league improve, right? So I'm not going to come out here and predict the New York Giants to go 17-0. I still realize they're a work in progress, but I'm going into this year much more optimistically. And yeah, my viewpoint going into this year is the New York Giants should absolutely contend to make the playoffs in 2021. They spent a boatload in free agency. Jones should be more acclimated to the scheme. They got Saquon Barkley back. They added Kenny Golladay. Kadarius Toney will help the offense. And the defense was a top 10 defense last year that should be only improved with the addition of Xavier McKinney, who barely played last year, adding nice pieces in the draft, and just having more familiarity on that side of the football. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the New York Giants could do in year two of Joe Judge and Patrick Graham. But let's jump right into the schedule. And week number one, the New York Giants take on the Denver Broncos. And yeah, I welcome this matchup. And usually week one, the New York Giants get off to a bad start. And we have not won our first game of the year since 2016. And a lot of times the New York Giants get really tough opponents. We were getting the Cowboys when they were good, and it was always in Dallas. Last year we got the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team, after the pandemic, a team with all that familiarity, a team with arguably the best defense in football. And you were throwing basically a rookie quarterback out there, and Jones learning a new scheme with, the offensive line and everything else that had never played together. So we knew we were probably going to lose week one last year. This year, it's a much different feeling for New York Giants fans. And I personally am a little bit surprised that the New York Giants are underdogs in this game. I think the Broncos are a 1-point favorite. And I'm not trying to disrespect the Broncos, okay? I think the Broncos have a pretty good football team. I think they have a very good defense. But when you look at the Giants' schedule, outside of their divisional games, if they're not going to be favored in this game from Vegas, when are they going to be favored? You're talking about a team last year who went 5-11. They still have question marks at the quarterback position. I recognize they had some injuries. I recognize they improved their defense. They're traveling across the country. I think this is a game the New York Giants absolutely should win. The Giants and the Broncos have met a combined 13 times. The Giants hold the advantage in the series 7-6. Giants won the last meeting in 2017, and this is the 20-year anniversary of the September 11th game. And a lot of people feel like that's the reason why the NFL paired up the Giants versus the Broncos week number one. I think this is going to be a good game. I don't expect the New York Giants to run them over. They have a very strong pass rush. They have a strong secondary. Patrick Surtain will be making his debut. Maybe the Giants will be able to pick on a rookie corner. But I think the approach in this game, even if Saquon Barkley is not 100% offensively for the Giants, should be to try to run the ball as much as you possibly can. Obviously, you got Chubb and Von Miller over there on the Denver side of the football, and you don't want Daniel Jones getting killed in his debut game of the year. That's not to say I don't want them to take shots. When there's shots there to be taken, I want them to take it. But I think they're going to need a more balanced approach in this game, and they're going to have to rely on their defense to create some turnovers, whether it's Teddy Bridgewater or whether it's Drew Lock. I'm not really scared of either one of those quarterbacks. The way this defense performed last year, I think we could get the job done. They do have weapons on that side of the ball. Jerry Jeudy should take a step up this year. And they have a number of other wide receivers. It's a pretty strong grouping, but I still don't trust their quarterback. Their offensive line is mediocre at best, and I think this Giants defense will get it done. I think this game will come down to who controls the clock better. It's going to be an old-fashioned game, and who turns the football over less. And in the end, I got the Giants winning their opening game against the Denver Broncos by about 3 or 4 points. So I got us getting off to a nice 1-0 start. Then we have a quick turnover going to Washington on Thursday Night Football. And historically, teams on the road on Thursday Night Football don't fare well. The percentages are even worse on a road Thursday night game than a traditional road game that would be on a Sunday, because you have less time to prepare and you have to travel. It's a short travel week. The one good thing I'll say about this matchup being on Thursday night, one, you have to play a Thursday night game. The Giants did get screwed, though, with this schedule. All 3 primetime games are on the road, but you have to play a Thursday night game. Every team in the league has to play it. I kind of like that we got it early in the year where the team should be not so beaten down. We're kind of rested. We've only played one game. We should be relatively healthy. So I like it from that standpoint, and there's familiarity there. It's not like we're facing a team that we don't normally play. We know the Washington football team pretty well. Yes, they've added some nice weapons. They added Curtis Samuel. But I think this is absolutely a game the New York Giants can compete in, and I think it's a game we could win. We've owned Washington over the last 3 or 4 years, but this is a much improved football team. And if I'm going to be honest and conservative and realistic with my record prediction, I am going to give Washington the win. I think these teams are pretty evenly matched, but all signs point to on the short rest week on the road, I'm going to give the split this year. So there's a hint. I'm going to give the Giants the win against Washington later in the year, but I will give the Washington football team the win week number 2. I think it'll be a very close game. I think Fitzpatrick will still be developing chemistry with his receivers, which is also kind of in favor with the Giants that they're getting to get them early in the year from that standpoint as well. But Washington's got a great pass rush. I think our offensive line could struggle. I think it's going to be the same exact game plan week 1. Week 2, we have to try to establish the run against that Washington front. Thomas did a great job against them last year, but make no mistake about it, Washington has a very good pass rush on that defensive line. That's the strength of that football team. And they improved their secondary with the addition of Jackson. It'll be a low-scoring game. I think the Giants will keep it close. I got Washington by about a field goal. Next up, week number 3. New York Giants taking on the Atlanta Falcons. It's in New York. And outside of the Denver game, I would say this is actually probably our second most winnable game, maybe even our first most winnable game outside of the division. And I think the Giants are going to get off to a nice 2-1 start, something we're not very familiar with. I know a lot of people may look at Atlanta, they'll say Kyle Pitts, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones. They got all these weapons. Their offense doesn't scare me too much. At home, they're a much better offense than they are on the road traditionally with Matt Ryan at the quarterback spot. And their defense is atrocious. They were 29th in the league last year in defense, 32nd against the pass. They didn't do a ton to rebuff that defense this year. Yeah, Kyle Pitts is going to be tough, but there's a new head coach over there. I think it'll take some time to gel for the Atlanta football team. I like that the New York Giants are getting them early in the year. I like that we're at home. And again, I think this is a game the New York Giants should win. I think we match up well with Atlanta. Will their offense put up points? Sure. But I think this is a game where Daniel Jones could build some confidence. I think this is the first game on the schedule where I think we'll get to see Daniel Jones air it out, and he may throw for 2-3 touchdowns in this football game. I like the Giants in this game by about a touchdown as they get off to a nice 2-1 start to start the year. Next up, week 4 at New Orleans. And you're going to see, I try to be as fair as I could in this, but I'm going to pick a couple of upsets here and there, and games in which I think the New York Giants could win. And I see the New York Giants getting off to a nice 2-1 start. They're building some chemistry. You got a new quarterback with Jameis Winston. New Orleans lost some pretty good players on this football team last year. They lost Trey Hendrickson. They lost Janoris Jenkins. They lost Emmanuel Sanders. Obviously, Jared Cook, Drew Brees, new quarterback over there. New Orleans traditionally is very hard to play at home. Okay, they didn't really add anybody in the draft that I think is going to be much of an immediate contributor. Most people thought that Peyton Turner was a little bit of a reach, the edge rusher out of Houston in the first round. We'll see how he plays. I still respect them, though. They still have a great weapon with Alvin Kamara. They still have one of the better offensive lines in football, and they will be able to establish the run on the turf in New Orleans. This game will come down to, in my opinion, a bend but don't break approach for the New York Giants and creating some turnovers from Jameis Winston. And in the end, I'm going to trust Patrick Graham, the innovative defensive mind for the New York Giants, to be able to dial up a great game plan against a guy that threw 30 picks just 2 years ago. The Giants, if they play smart in this game, they don't turn the football over. I think they actually stand a very good chance to go into New Orleans and pull off an upset. I don't know how big of an upset it'll feel like going into that game. We'll have to wait and see how New Orleans looks over the first 3 contests this year with their new quarterback and some pieces missing due to the salary cap casualties. But I like the Giants to actually pull up a nice little upset here and get the 3-1 to start the year. Now, don't get too excited, Giants fans. The schedule's about to get a little rougher, and I'm going to have us getting a couple of L's. But it's nice to finally get off to a nice 3-1 start over the first quarter of the season. Next game is the Dallas Cowboys. And again, much like Washington, I'm going to give Dallas respect. I think we actually match up well with Dallas. I really do. And I think we could sweep Dallas. I'm not going to predict it. I'm going to take Dallas in this game. I still got to respect Dak. I got to respect the familiarity there in the second year with their coach as well. You have to figure the defense will get better. They drafted a bunch of defensive players. They got a young defense there, though, that's inexperienced. And again, getting them relatively early in the year could be a benefit to the New York Giants in Dallas with how inexperienced and young that defense will be. I could see Daniel Jones, again, much like the Falcons game, opening it up and putting up, 2 or 3 touchdown passes in this game to kind of pad the stats, build some confidence throughout the year. But the second year with McCarthy, Dak being back at home, we've struggled against Dallas in recent years, and I'm going to give Dallas respect. I'm going to give them a win. I think the Giants will put up points, but I think they'll be able to put up points on our defense first time around. We'll have to wait and see. I got it around 27-23. I'll have the Cowboys by 4 at home. But like I said, I would not be surprised at all if the New York Giants were to go into Dallas and win that football game. I definitely could see us sweeping Dallas this year, but I'm trying to be as realistic as I can with these predictions. Next up, we've got the LA Rams. And when I looked at the New York Giants schedule, when I first saw it, last year, there was 5 games before the year started. I said, we can't win. I don't feel that way this year. And the Rams are not a game that I feel like we can't win. There's 2 games I probably feel like, if I'm being as honest as I possibly can, that we're not going to win. That's at the Chiefs, and that, of course, is at the Bucs. Could we win them? Sure, but if you're being honest, we more than likely will not win those games. This is probably the 3rd toughest game on our schedule, if I had to guess, but I think it's a game we absolutely have a good shot at to win. We're taking on the Rams. Now, the Rams play Thursday night the week before, so they're going to have 10 days to prepare. So the New York Giants won't have too much of an advantage in terms of travel. They're going to have an extra 3 days off before they take on the New York Giants the prior week. Last year, we played the Rams, and we played them all the way down to the wire. Year in which the Rams, I think, went 11-5. Now they go out there, they add Matthew Stafford to a offense that was pretty potent last year with Jared Goff. It's only going to be more improved. They arguably have the best defense in football. If the Giants are going to have a chance in this game, it's going to be much like last year, where the offensive line is able to get some kind of push up front. We actually run the ball on them fairly effectively. We shoot up the clock, and the defense keeps us in the game. But with the addition of Stafford, I actually love the Rams this year. I am probably going to pick the Rams to go to the Super Bowl. And even on the road, I'm going to give the Giants their first home loss of the year, week number 6 against the LA Rams. I'll have the Rams by about 4 points as the Giants drop to 500 at 3-3. Next up, week number 6, we've got the Panthers at home. Matt Rule, little interesting storyline there. Matt Rule was almost the New York Giants head coach before we hired Joe Judge. Matt Rule, of course, got that 7-year contract with the Carolina Panthers. And much like the Giants, they're getting their primary weapon back. Christian McCaffrey missed all of last year due to an injury. We'll see how he responds, much like Saquon Barkley does this year for the New York Giants. And the offense is going to revolve around both of those players. Carolina definitely still has a lot of good weapons, obviously, with Moore, Anderson. Like I said, getting McCaffrey back. Sam Darnold, though, still a major question mark for me there. I've always thought Darnold is a pretty talented quarterback. I didn't think that the Jets set him up right. Well, going to Carolina with the weapons that they have in place there, he really doesn't have much of an excuse to not go out there and at least be a productive quarterback with the Panthers. I think it'll be an interesting storyline as he takes on the Jets, his former team, week 1. But here, home against the Giants, I think the Giants are going to be able to put up some points on this Carolina defense, and I think we'll keep Sam Darnold and that offense in check. I see the Giants winning this game 23-20. I think it'll be a close game, but I got the Giants getting to 4-3 after week number 7. Week number 8, we go to Kansas City, and I'm not going to waste too much time here. I'm going to give Kansas City respect. I mean, we're going to one of the toughest places to play in the NFL. Arrowhead Stadium notoriously is a very hard place to play, and of course the Chiefs, maybe the most talented team in football. Last year, they lost the Super Bowl due to the fact that their offensive line was all banged up. They couldn't block. They added a couple of offensive linemen. They attacked it heavily in the offseason. Obviously, you still got Andy Reid calling plays, Pat Mahomes, the whole bit, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce in Kansas City. I just don't see how the New York Giants will be able to match up in this football game. I think they could keep it relatively close, but I just think that Chiefs offense will be a bit too much for the New York Giants to be able to keep up with. I don't care how good our defense is. I can't see us in Kansas City holding them to lower than maybe the high 20s. And even if the New York Giants had a lead, I still wouldn't feel comfortable throughout this game. I got the Giants losing by about a touchdown in Kansas City as they drop to 4-4. Next up, we got the Raiders. Raiders are traveling across the country, much like the Broncos. I like that. When you look at our schedule this year, in terms of the AFC West and the NFC South, the one thing that I really liked is the teams that I would view as the softer opponents had to come to us. The Broncos, the Raiders. I don't mind going to Kansas City because, honestly, I don't think we beat Kansas City at home anyway. So I like that the Raiders have to travel to us. I think they're a team that's close to on par with the New York Giants, but the fact we're at home, the fact that they're traveling, I like this matchup for the Giants. I think it's a good rebound game after we lose to Kansas City. The Raiders, they lost 3 offensive linemen this year. Obviously, Derek Carr being the quarterback, still a pretty good quarterback. They've got weapons, young wide receivers over there. We'll see how guys like Henry Ruggs mature in year 2. But I think that offensive line is going to get picked on in this game. I really do. And I think Patrick Graham will be able to dial up a game plan to be able to create a couple of turnovers. And the Giants will get to 5-4 at home as they take down the Raiders. Then the Giants get a nice little bye. Right in the middle of the season, you get to recharge the batteries a little bit. We go into the bye at 5-4, and then we got a bear coming out, and that is at the Tampa Bay Bucs. Now, the good news here is we have a bye. We have 2 weeks to prepare for Tom Brady. Joe Judge has some familiarity there, and the Giants actually came out with a great game plan against the Bucs last time around, and had Daniel Jones even played average in that football game, the New York Giants would have won it. Now, you got to respect the Bucs. They may be the best team in the NFL. Of course, the defending Super Bowl champions. They've got talent throughout that roster. The offensive line is stacked. Their edge rushers are legit. I think the Giants are going to keep this game close. But, much like the Kansas City game, on the road, if it was at home and the Giants had an extra week to prepare, I may take the Giants in this game. But with all that being said, I am going to give Tampa Bay the benefit of the doubt here. They're the Super Bowl champions. It's in Tampa Bay. Extra week won't matter. I got the Bucs by about a touchdown, taking down the New York Giants as they drop their first game out of the bye and drop to 5-5 on the year. Next up, Philadelphia Eagles. Team I can't wait to play this year. We're sweeping them. It's due. Last year we should have swept them. Evan Ingram dropped the ball. I just think we're a better team. I don't believe in Jalen Hurts. Yeah, they made some nice moves with the limited budget that they had. Obviously, they had Devontae Smith. Doesn't scare me. Not against our secondary. Not with Jalen Hurts throwing the football. Their offensive line should be a little, should be better this year. They're healthier, but they're notorious for having injuries. And I think they're banking on them to stay healthy. I just don't like the direction of this football team this year. Long term, I see what the Eagles are doing. I think they're setting it up right with all the draft picks they got. But I think the Eagles are going to take a back seat in the division this year. And I like the New York Giants to go out there and stomp the Philadelphia Eagles. I like this by at least 10 points at home against the Eagles as the Giants get to 6-5. I think they'll be able to control the clock. I think they'll come out with a good game plan. And I like the New York Giants to get the job done. Jalen Hurts throws at least 2 picks. Next up, at the Miami Dolphins. The Giants coming in now at 6-5 going into week 13. And this was a game that I was kind of back and forth on, but it's on the road. I'm going to give Miami their respect. I definitely could see the New York Giants beating them, but again, I'm trying to be as realistic and conservative in this as I could be. I don't want to say we're going to go 12-5 because in my heart, I don't think we are. There may be some games that I think we're going to win that we may lose, and there may be some games that I think we're going to lose that we may win, and this may be one of them. I could definitely see the New York Giants going up against Patrick Graham, going into Miami and winning, but I'm going to have Miami narrowly winning this game. I think it's a great storyline going in. Of course, Patrick Graham, coach with the Dolphins, half our coaching staff. Shaplinski came from the Dolphins. Judge obviously has a lot of familiarity with Flores. They both came from the Patriots. I think it's a great matchup of the minds. 2 great young head coaches in the NFL, 2 teams on a similar timeline. The Dolphins last year had a really good year, narrowly missed the playoffs. We'll see if Tua is still the quarterback then, but Tua does not scare me. They definitely got some talent though on the offensive side of the football now by adding Jalen Waddle. I think he's going to be an explosive playmaker. In Miami, I'll give Miami a narrow win. I'm going to go 21-20, Miami by a point, but it does drop the Giants to 6-6 as we head down the stretch for the last 5 games of the year. Then we get a back-to-back, and I hate this. I hate having the back-to-back road games and having to travel from Miami, come back to New York, and then having to travel out to the West Coast to take on the Chargers. I hate it. I would have much rather preferred to get the Chargers earlier in the year. Justin Herbert with a new coach, learning a new scheme. You have to figure he's going to take some time to get acclimated. But by this point in the season, and of course we don't know what these teams are going to look like by week 14, but I'm only assuming that they're going to be healthy going into this game. You have to figure Herbert, who threw 31 touchdowns in his rookie year, is going to be more acclimated to the playbook. The offense will be gelling. And the fact that we're traveling back-to-back weeks, having to go out to the Chargers, I'm going to have the Giants drop in this game. This is a scary game for me. We have not beaten the Chargers the last 4 times we played them. Eli has never beaten them in his career. They just seem to have our number. And the fact that it's a back-to-back, the fact that I think Herbert will be hitting on all cylinders going into that game, should be starting to take a nice groove into the end of the season. I will have the Chargers taking down the New York Giants and dropping us to 6-7. And that brings us to the last 4 games of the year, 3 of which will be divisional opponents, all of which will be at home. First up, the Dallas Cowboys. I had us losing to the Dallas Cowboys the first time around in Dallas. This time around at home, I'm giving us the split. I think the New York Giants are going to beat Dallas. And like I said the first time we met them, I think we match up well with this team. Yeah, they've got a ton of weapons, but we have one of the top 3 or 4 secondaries more than likely, at least in my opinion, in the NFL, with guys like Logan Ryan, with guys like Xavier McKinney, guys like Peppers. Obviously, our corners are really good with the addition of Adoree Jackson and James Bradbury. I think we could keep them in check, especially at home. I'm not saying we're going to shut them out, but I think we'll be able to keep them in check, and I think our offense will be able to put up some points on that Dallas defense. I like the Giants in this game by about 4 points. I'll go 27-23. New York Giants as we get to 7-7 back to 500. Eagles, I already told you we're sweeping them. Definitely not going to have us losing at home. Actually, no, I think this game's on the road. I'm sorry. This game is on the road. We beat them at home the first time around. Now we're going to Philadelphia. And at this point in the season, and the Eagles are definitely going to go out there and they're going to try to play as hard as they can. I think the Eagles are going to be out of it. The Giants are going to have a lot to play for going into this game. And I'm going to have the Giants taking down the Eagles by about a touchdown. I'll give them more credit going into Philadelphia. I'll have the Giants winning 27-20 as we get to 8-7 on the year. Then we got at Chicago in what will be a very, very cold matchup. Should be a really fun game to watch. The Bears, at that point, you have to figure they'll have a rookie quarterback in there in Justin Fields. They've got a decent offense. We'll see how Fields, a rookie quarterback, does, but generally rookie quarterbacks struggle. I don't care how good they are. Justin Herbert last year, I think, only won 5 games as a starter. Most quarterbacks in their rookie year don't win more than 5 or 6 games. With him in the lineup, and this is a big game for the Giants, because if we win, it knocks down the Bears draft pick. We, of course, have the Bears first-round pick going into next year. Should be a really exciting game. They have a really good defense, but I think we'll go into Chicago and we'll beat up on a rookie quarterback. And I think this is one of those games in the elements where you ask Daniel Jones to kind of do what he did last year over the last 5-6 games of the year. Play smart. Don't turn the ball over. Don't make mistakes. Leave that up to Justin Fields. Stop the run. Force Fields to make bad passes. Create a couple of turnovers. And the New York Giants will get out of Chicago with a W as they get to, 9-7 on the year going into week 18 against the Washington football team. And, of course, the NFL made this rule a couple of years ago, about 8 or 9 years ago, where you have to finish with a divisional opponent. It doesn't seem like we finished with Washington that often. But this year we do, and I really do, these are the 2 best teams in the NFC East, and I think this game could very well determine who may or may not be winning this division at year's end. You can definitely make an argument that Washington is the best all-around team in the NFC East. When you look at their defense, you look at their offensive line, how it was much better than people anticipated last year. Their biggest question mark is Ryan Fitzpatrick. You don't know what you're going to get there. I had the Giants losing on the short week going into Washington, week number 2. Well, now we have a lot of time to get acclimated. Who knows if Fitzpatrick's even still the quarterback at that point in time. But the Giants being at home, the fact we've had Washington's number, the fact that I think we're pretty comparable in terms of an overall team. I think both of our defenses are pretty close. I'd probably give them the slight edge. I think overall our offenses are pretty close. I'd probably give our weapons a slight edge with guys like Saquon Barkley, Kenny Golladay if they're all healthy. And I do think Daniel Jones will take a step up this year with the help around him, but that remains to be seen. So anybody that's doubting that, I completely understand it. I am going to have the Giants taking down Washington the last game of the year by about 3 points and winning the NFC East as the Giants get to 10-7 and they win their last 4 games down the stretch. That's how I see the schedule playing out. In the end, I think the Giants win 9 or 10 games this year. I kind of sided more towards the optimistic side, kind of like I did last year. I thought 5 or 6 last year. I went with 6. This year, I'm going with 10. I think the Giants improved a lot this offseason, and I don't hate the schedule as many other people may. I actually think it plays out somewhat decently. There is a lot of travel, though. And I think that 2-game road trip will be a big crucial part in the season at Miami, at the Chargers. We'll have to see what our record is coming out of the bye, and we're going to have to try to go 4-2 in this division if we have any plans of winning it. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.